Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create a kaleidoscope. Now we're going to be using all the canes that I've made in previous tutorials, as you can see, and I've made some new ones along the way, but they're basically using the same techniques I've shown in my previous tutorials. And this is what we're going to be using to create our kaleidoscope. So a kaleidoscope basically consists of simpler canes. So you're going to want to go and gather a whole bunch of canes that you've made, or go ahead and make some more canes. I'll provide links to all of the tutorials that I made in the past showing how to create these canes, and you can go and watch them and make these canes for yourself if you haven't got them already. So what we're going to start with is the base, and for the base I'm going to want to use a jelly roll. Now I made this one in my jelly roll with a striped frame tutorial, and all I did here is I simply took it and I pinched it so that it became a square. Now this is what I want to use for my base, but this one's a little small, so I'm just going to show you how to create it. So you'll take it with your fingers like this, and you'll just start pinching. And then once you've got a basic square shape, you can use your work surface to do the rest of the work for you, as using a flat surface will be a lot more accurate than just using your fingers. So that's very quick to do, just easy manipulating. So there you go, you've got your square cane, square jelly roll cane. So that's going to be the base of my kaleidoscope triangle. Now I'm going to take this, which I made in the same tutorial as the jelly roll. I'm just going to part this off, and just line it up like so, pop it on the top, there we go. Then I'm going to take this bullseye skinner blend, which I made in my skinner blend canes tutorial, and what I'm going to do is, because this is a bit big for what I want, just going to reduce it. And now because these are quite soft, it's very quick to get this reducing done. So if you're going to do a kaleidoscope, I recommend using canes that you've made recently, because if your canes have been made a few months ago and have been lying around, whether in bags or on your work surface, guilty as charged, they will be a little bit crumbly, and so reducing them will take a lot longer and it can cause a bit of frustration. So I just recommend, if you're going to do a kaleidoscope and it's your first time, I'd use fresh canes if I were you, because it just gets the job done a lot easier, a lot faster, and causes less frustration. So that's what I wanted basically. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to manipulate this into a triangle shape. And all you do is you take your hands and you just pinch the top, and while you're pinching you just slightly press it down onto your work surface. And I'm putting my finger over here so that I don't have any bowing, or it prevents the ends from getting mucked up too much. So you can see I'm just forming 3 corners, and that's basically how you would form it into a rough triangle. And just smooth the edges off with your fingers so that you don't have any finger marks. And you could carry on at this for a little bit longer and you could get sharper corners, but I don't really want sharp corners. So that's basically what I have. And now I'm going to just measure this up to this so that I get the right length. Oops. There we are. Put that aside for later on. And I'll just stick this on top of this, like so. And now I want another triangle to fit over here. So I'm going to use this cane that I made for that. And the way I made that cane was by taking a piece of this and cutting it like that. Now you can make a bigger piece, but I'm just showing you how I did it, and just rolled it up basically. This can be a little bit tricky because all my pieces aren't stuck together as well as they could be. But that's basically how I made it. Okay. So there, so you can see that this one, I had more stripes in that one, but it's basically the same thing. So I'm going to use this one. And I'll just want to manipulate this into a triangle as well. And always keep your finger over here, it prevents the cane from warping too much. There we go. It's basically the right size. There we are. So if I flip it, this is what it looks like so far. Now I'm going to take my Skinner Blend plug over here, and I'm going to have to reduce this a little bit, but because it's soft, it's very quick to do. Just pinch and turn. And this is why I recommend having a hard surface to work on. I'm currently using a tile, and also the good thing about this in summer is that because it's cold, typically, glass would also work for this. When you're doing your cane process, even if you are using Kato, your canes can get a bit warm from all the manipulating that you're doing. And to have a nice cold surface keeps your canes firm. So if you were to use a rubber mat or something like that, your canes would get a lot softer and you'd have to make regular trips to put them in the fridge, firm them up, and then you take them out again and carry on working, which can be a bit of a schlep. So that's basically reduced enough. Just going to trim off the end. Measure it up. Keep that for later. So that's what it looks like. Okay, and now what I want to do, so I want to take this and I want to wrap it around this. So you'll just press it down like so, fold it over, press it, fold it over, press it. Oh wait, you know what? I'm doing it the wrong way. Oh well. You make mistakes like that. Just go with the flow. What I'm going to do instead now is I'm just not going to use this one because it's not really going to work for the Kaleidoscope. So I'll pop that over there and I'll just use this one that I have over here. Now use this, and I'll just pop it over the top like that. And basically what a kaleidoscope does is it just gives you some room to play with the cane shapes and just have fun. really just about taking basic canes and fiddling with them. So I only had a few basic canes and I've turned them into triangle shapes, I've added some borders to them, I've manipulated their shapes. It really just is about having fun and seeing what you can come out with. It's a really good project for a beginner. It's basically what I would call the first step into complex cane making. So that's what I have. And if it's a little bit too big, but not that big, you can always just, if it's soft, press on it to get it to squish down a bit. See how that one fits? Now what I'm trying to go for here is I actually need a triangle, so I need to add some more to the bottom over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bullseye cane that I have over here and I'm going to reduce it quickly. See, that goes very quickly. Just trim off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roughly cut that in half and I'm going to line it up. I'm going to cut it in half again. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of these and I'm going to form them into a rough triangle. Very rough triangle. Just basically want a point. Then I'll take this other one and I'll move it over so that I form the two triangles together to make a larger triangle like that. And I'm not being precise with this because I don't really want it to look precise. I prefer it when I get a slightly organic look to my creations. And you could always be precise using a ruler or just taking more time. See, I'm just basically forming slight teardrop shapes. And last one, form this into a basic triangle and pop that on the end and pinch it so that the corners draw up over here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and get this into a more pointy triangle shape, and the way you do that is you just pinch the top over here and then you flip it so that it's resting like that, and then you just press down on top over here to get that pointy, because my goal is to get this into a triangle shape. So I hope you can see what I'm doing. I basically was pushing this down towards my tile so that I form it into a sharp triangle, into a sharp point, I mean. So that it's the same as the other corners. So that's more of a triangle than it was before. Now I'll take that and I'll cut, and that's what I've ended up with. With basic bullseye canes. Okay, now I'm going to measure it up so that it lines up. So I'm going to do it on this side so you can see what I'm doing. So I'd say it needs to be cut in half. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop it down on each side so that this part is facing up. So it ends up looking like that. Then I'm just going to push it in so that I've got two corners touching the tile and one corner up here, like so. Then what I'm going to do that's a good enough shape for my liking. Now I've got to form this into a triangle shape. So this can take a little bit of manipulating. And you want to go slowly at this point because you're trying to get into a triangle shape. So start at the top, start working down. Flip it over, start working. And by doing this, you're pressing this side down onto the tile, which flattens out everything on this side so that it starts to create 3 flat sides and 3 points. And that's how you would manipulate your bunch of canes into one long triangular cane. And this is basically how you would reduce a triangle cane. Start from the middle, pinch, go outward, flip, pinch, and go outward, flip, pinch, and go outward. And that's basically how you reduce a triangle cane. So you can see I've reduced it quite a bit. I'm just going to give you a peek on what it looks like inside. And so I need to be able to cut this into 6 pieces, and so I need to reduce this quite a bit more, so I'll cut when I've done that. Okay, so I've got this as reduced as I need it to be. Now you can use a ruler, but I like using this thing. I still haven't figured out what it is actually called, but I like it because you can use it on sheets to indent these ridges so you know where to cut. So that's what I'm going to use here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 needs to come up to here. There we go, so I've got basically the right size. Now I'm just going to press it into here so that I know exactly where to cut. There we go. See? So, got to trim off a bit here. I'm cutting this way so you can see what I'm doing. Usually I would have my hand on the other end. So this is not how you cut correctly if you are in your own home. You want to cut like that, but I'm cutting like that so you can see what I'm doing on this end. So there we are. Here's all the pieces. Now what we're going to do is we're going to join them together like this, and now what you want is a mirror image. So when you're putting them together, you want to check both sides that you have it lined up exactly. And now you also want to gently press on it to make sure that they have stuck together, because if you haven't done that, it can end up falling to pieces later. So that was not quite right. Just checking each side so that I can get a mirror image. There we go. And this is also why I recommend using nice fresh canes, because they stick together and they reduce better. It just makes your life a lot easier. So my number 1 tip here is to always use fresh canes if you're doing a kaleidoscope. Okay. No. Here we go. And check each side every single time to make sure that you have got it lined up properly. To flip that. There we go. I'm just going to pull this apart just slightly so that I can fit this in nicely. And I'll line it up with this edge. So, and I'll line it up with this edge. So. And I need to do that on this side as well. There we go. that's basically how you put a kaleidoscope together. Now let's say that this is a bit too big for your liking and you want to reduce it. Now this is a bit of a delicate process, but basically how you would do it is so there's one side over here and that is resting on the tile, and you want to press on this side, flip it a little bit so that it's resting on another side, press on the next bit, flip, press, flip, press, so that you're keeping all of your sides nice and flat. See, it's still nice and flat. But this way you'll be pushing out your clay, and this I found is the best way to reduce a kaleidoscope and keep your corners all nice and sharp. It's a bit slower than a lot of the other shapes that I've shown you how to reduce, but it's the best way to reduce a kaleidoscope and keep the corners sharp. And also, by doing this, it will also sharpen up any corners that might have got dulled while you were pressing it together. And it's also very good to reduce your kaleidoscope slightly, because it will get out any air bubbles, and if you haven't stuck these pieces together correctly and they were a bit loose, they'll stick together properly now. So I recommend, even if it was about the right shape and size for you, I'd reduce it a little bit so that your shapes are all nice and stuck together, so that when you do slice it, it stays together in one nice neat slice. So I'll get to when I have finished reducing this. Okay, so I've reduced this as far as I want. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like when I cut it. So I'm not going to use this blade. I have special blades for this process that I keep separate, and I only use for slicing canes. So they're very sharp, and I'm using the Lucy clay ones. So you want to angle up your blades, and you want to keep your hands resting on your work surface so that you have as much control as possible. Hold it as close to the middle of the blade as you can, and press straight down. Now, because this is a little warm, it did go a little bit wonky, so you can just press it back into shape. But that is basically what our kaleidoscope looks like. So you can see from this sort of stuff, really basic canes that any beginner can do. You just take those and you press them together in a certain way, and you can create a really pretty looking cane. And that's your first step into complex cane making. And that's basically all a cane is. It's just a combination of really simple canes into a more complex looking cane. And so in future videos I'll be showing more complex canes, like how to build flower canes and leaf canes and lace canes and all other sorts of canes. So I hope you will look out for those videos. And if you're interested in knowing how to make these simple canes, please have a look in the description below, as I will provide links to all the videos that I have on creating simple canes like these. So I hope this video was helpful to you, and I hope to see you again. Bye for now.